Hi, everyone. I'm Jess, and I'm the content manager here at Course Report. Course Report is the resource for helping people find the best coding bootcamp for them. At Course Report, you can research the best in-person and online coding bootcamps from all over the world. You can find out which languages to learn, where to apply, and how to pay for your own bootcamp tuition. So today, I'm so happy to have Selva Miranda, a Sabio bootcamp instructor and software engineer, joining us to talk about what it's actually like to learn at Sabio's in-person campus in downtown Los Angeles. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today, Selva. You're actually a Sabio bootcamp grad from an in-person cohort way back in 2017. I'd love to just start off with hearing about how you switched your career from education to software engineering. Like, what inspired that?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having us. So I am a Sabio grad. I graduated, like you said, in 2017, and I was actually in the education slash nonprofit field before this. I was young, recently graduated college, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. And therefore, like everyone else, decided I wanted to go to law school. And I was working for a law firm at the time. No idea about coding, not even in my mind at all. And actually, the attorney that I was working for at the time, he came up to me one day. I was the receptionist. He came up to me and he was like, "I know you're trying to go to law school." He's like, "I don't think you should do that." He's like, "I think you should look into coding." And I looked at him and I was like, coding? Me? Okay, I guess." He's like, "Yeah, look at some courses, look at things, but I really think you should do that. I don't think you should go and get into huge debt." I was like, "Okay, well, let me check it out." So I went to a site called Codecademy, and I was like, "Okay, well, let me take an HTML course." And I started doing that. And well, no, actually, before that, I went online and I looked for events, right, in-person events, to see what the coding world was about. And actually, Sabio came up with a woman code meetup, and it was like maybe a couple of blocks away from where the law firm was. And I was like, "Okay, well, this is perfect." So I went. That's where I met Liliana. I met a couple of other, I believe it was like a panel of four women who had gone through the boot camp and were talking about their experience. And it was very impressive. And they actually are the ones that recommended that I take some Codecademy classes to see if I liked it. And so I did. And it turns out that it was something that I enjoyed. And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm not really sure what it is that I want to do with my life, but this seems like a great opportunity, great pay, and I'm going to take the risk." And that's how I ended up here.
And there's so many coding boot camps. Even back in 2017, there were quite a few boot camps. What set Sabio apart from any of the other programs?
So there were a couple of things, but I think the main thing that I set them apart to me was their drive and their focus in diversity inclusion. Again, I was an education major. Profit was my focus. So diversity is something that I'm heavily passionate about. And not only were they passionate about teaching us and giving us the tools necessary to be successful, but they also cared a lot about making everyone feel included in the program and giving everyone the accessibility to a field that is booming.
Mm, that totally makes sense. And now, having worked as a software engineer, what continues to make Sabio's coding bootcamp unique from other boot camps?
So I would say for me, it's the one community, right? We make it it's very important for us to keep our students engaged even after they graduate. And I have seen, and also from personal experience, the first job that I got out of the boot camp was thanks to another alumni, right? So we try to help one another get into these roles. And that's one. The other would be we I think our teaching styles. So we go ahead and provide we have a curriculum set that the students
Mhm.
follow, right? But then also the way that we teach is special, at least the way that I like to teach is special, I'd like to say, right? I like to integrate different teaching styles. So For example, there are days where I'll go ahead and give a lecture where it's mostly me talking, but then I also make it a point to have the students also be integrated in the learning, right? So there are times where I do no coding. I'm sitting in lecture and I'm constantly asking them questions. Well, how do I do this? Why do I do it this way? Well, why is it better to do it this way than the other way, right? So I think our teaching styles are very important. Career services is also very important, right? So again, even after they graduate, we partner them up with mentors, right? So it's students that graduated maybe a couple of cohorts before them. They go ahead and meet up with them. I believe it's monthly to encourage them to continue applying and help them with any non-tech skills that are necessary to be successful in the field as well.
Yeah, and you're back to your education roots as an instructor at Sabio. Um, you started touching on it a little bit, like how would you describe your overall teaching style?
Yeah, so again, it's instructor led but also student led. Like I definitely love combining both of those aspects. So if I do go ahead and give a lecture where it's mostly me talking, if it's a new subject, I'm obviously going to do a lot of the talking. I'll give a lot of examples and I'll go ahead and give examples that will make sense to someone who has no tech experience, right? So one example that I actually just came up with and my students seem to like it. I was talking to them about specific topic and the way that I made them understand it was by them through them sharing a dog. I was like, okay, if you guys share a dog, what and if you change the name of this dog, then not only is Daniel's dog's name going to change, but Natalia's dog's name is also going to change. And they were like, oh my God, okay, that makes sense, right? So something that is tangible for them because I do know that they're coming in here with almost or maybe no experience in coding. That's
Mhm.
incredibly important for me. And then after they go ahead and learn that, again, then I go ahead and have them implement it, right? So, okay, now you teach me. What did you learn? Show me what it is that you grasped from it. And that helps me understand, okay, well, they did get the topics that I was aiming for them to learn in my lecture, or okay, no, we need to revisit that. So we go ahead and do that. I break them and give them also group activities for them to work on, put them into different groups, have them come back, and then we go ahead and see different solutions, right? Because also in this field, there's 100,000 different solutions that you can come up with. It's just a matter of figuring out, okay, which one's the best one and why is it the best?
Mm. Do you find that you are relying on your past teaching career and the skills from that in your role now as a boot camp instructor?
I believe so. Yes. Yes, definitely. I think my students actually are the ones that point it out to me when I tell them like, "Oh, I was an education major." They're like, "I see it. I see it in the way that you teach." So, yes, I do think so.
And what about your on the job experience as a software engineer? Is that like informing your teaching at Sabio too?
Definitely, yes. And also even my experience as a student. So, like any other place, you're going to have students that just automatically get it and they just run
Hmm.
with it. And then there's students who are really going to struggle. And then there's then between students that are kind of getting it, but maybe need a little more time. And I was that in between student, right? And because I was that in between student, I come in with that mindset that I want to go ahead and help those students that maybe it's a little harder for them to get it. I also, because of the experience that I have had out in the field, I I understand how intimidating it can be, and the imposter syndrome is real. And so the last thing I want to do whenever I'm interacting with a student is making them feel dumb, right? They always, I mean, there are students that come to me and say, "Hey, this is going to be a stupid question." We're like, "No, it's not a stupid question, right? Like, if you have the question, there's probably three other students that have the same question,
Mm.
okay? And it just turns out that you're the courageous one that actually brought the question to the whole group, right? So we kind of try to shift that perspective.
Mm. And now that you're working with Sabio students, what do you feel like the biggest misconception about changing careers into tech is these days?
That you have to be a genius,
Mm.
that you have to be a genius to be able to enter the tech field, and that's not true. You have to be dedicated. I will say that. You have to be dedicated to the field. You have to be dedicated to constantly learning. It's a field that you'll never stop learning. There's always something new to learn. You'll never get to a point where you're like, oh, I know everything, right? And even if you get to a point where you feel like you know everything, I'm sure there's improvements that you can always make.
Mm. So Selva, I'd love to hear a bit more about Sabio's in-person campus in downtown LA. What does this in-person space offer to students?
Yeah, definitely. So we are in downtown LA, and we are in a space that allows other offices to be along with us. So basically, the way that it works is depending on how many students we have, we go ahead and dedicate space for them. So the offices range in size, but basically, students have their own space to come in. They have an instructor working with them there. And then let's say when they go off to lunchtime, there is a kitchen space provided for them. There's a community space that they can go to. There are foosball tables that they can go play with if needed. There's personal booths that they can go to if they need to make, personal calls. We're in at the row. It's kind of like a little plaza with multiple restaurants, coffee shops, and outdoor seating areas as well. So students really, really enjoy the space. We also have a gym, so we have that as well. And there are also, I believe, shuttles that bring you from the metro station and take you back, also if necessary.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too, if like what the
Mhm.
parking situations like for this downtown space, or if most people are, yeah, taking the shuttles, the buses in.
Yeah, so again, we're in downtown LA, so a lot of students do take the public transit system, but we also do have a parking space. It is $12 a day.
Mm.
So it depends on what it is that the student can afford. There's options.
And are there like designated study spaces inside the campus in addition to kind of like more communal spaces or the classrooms?
So there's communal spaces, the classrooms, and there's cubicles
Oh.
out in the communal spaces that they can go ahead and take advantage of. I will say typically when they are in session, right? So from 9 to 12, and I believe it's 12 to 4, we do like them to be in classroom because we do like to collaborate with one another. So we do like all students to be in the same room.
Mm. And does the in-person campus host events or demo days? I know that there's the great online like free workshops, coding workshops, but I was wondering if there's in-person ones as well.
We currently do not hold any in-person demos. We do have some in-person students, but then we also have our online students.
Mm.
So when we do have demo days, we actually do have demo days every month. So the graduating cohort goes ahead and demos whatever it is that they worked on for that month. And we do have that, but it's all online.
Mm. And for prospective students who are interested in applying to Sabio, what's your advice to them on choosing between the in-person learning versus Sabio's online cohorts?
I think it's a lot of it has to do with finance, I would say, right? So it depends on like your finances, what it is that one you can afford. Obviously, if you're online, if you're at home, it might end up being cheaper for you than coming here, trying to get here either through public transit or by paying the parking fee. Um, but then also, if you are in person, right, you do get that collaboration that although it does happen still for online students, you can't compare it to being on campus, right? And then also you do have access to an instructor directly. So even though I try my best to interact with my online students the same way that I interact with my in-person students, if I see two in-person students talking about a subject and I know they're going towards the wrong direction, I can quickly just go and be like, no, 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 that's not right. Jump on cue, right? Like let's
Hmm.
redirect. So I think that those are special things, right? The bonding experience that you get. So it just depends on what is important, what it is that you can do. Mhm.
And what kinds of projects have your recent in-person cohorts worked on at Sabio? I know the real world projects are a key piece of the curriculum.
Yeah. So, for example, right now we are working with a company that wants us to create basically like it's going to be a website that builds a roadmap for students in high school. And basically, that roadmap, you can kind of think of it the way that the product owner talks about it. He says it's kind of like Duolingo, where again, you have a roadmap of what it is that you need to go ahead and do within those 4 years to be able to be in a good place to then submit your application for college and have as much success as possible.
Mm.
So that's one big project that we're currently drafting right now, and our cohort is going to start working on it. So typically, a product stays in cohort for about, I believe, like 3 months. So multiple cohorts touch the same project, which I think is really cool because it
Oh.
allows them to pick up code other students worked on. And then, one, they need to learn how to understand it. They need to learn how to collaborate with one another, coding wise, to not affect someone else's code or someone who came before them's code.
Mm.
And then leave it at a place where someone else can pick it up for them, right? So collaboration is incredibly important when it comes to phase 3 of our program. Um, so that's one of the big projects that we're working on right now. We're drafting it, and again, I believe the next 3 cohorts will be working on that.
That's so cool. I didn't realize it like carries through different cohorts. I love that. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
So how do you support students who may be having difficulties with a certain aspect of the curriculum? It sounds like you're super attentive to your in-person students and what they're working on, but just what are some of the other ways that you help them?
Yeah, so if we do see students that are struggling, we make it a point to kind of pull them aside and have a check-ins with them, right?
Mm.
See where they're at, one, mentally. Is it a mental blocker? Is it that they just are getting too much into their head, that that's the reason why they're not producing during assessments or not turning in their work or just not not as motivated as maybe they could be? So we go ahead and check if it's that, if it's really that they're just having a hard time understanding the curriculum, or picking up the curriculum, or also understanding if maybe it's something that they don't really want to do, right? Like sometimes we have had students that come in here and maybe have a different expectation of it, and then they realize, hey, actually, this is not for me. So what is it? The first thing that we do
Mm.
is check in. What is it that's going on with the student? Once we are able to figure that out, then we go ahead and make a plan of action for the student. So let's say it's a case of motivation and imposter syndrome. We go ahead and what I like to do is break down what it is that they're working with in bite sizes that I know the student will be able to accomplish to kind of up that confidence, right? Up their confidence a bit, maybe give them a little more time with certain tasks. And then if it has to do with, again, them not grasping the curriculum, then we do sometimes offer them extensions. That doesn't always happen,
Mm.
but we do offer some extensions for students that we do see are putting in the work, just need a little bit more time. And then, I mean, if it's a student that's realized this is not for me, well, thank you very much. But if this is not for you, it's not for you,
Yeah.
right? So it depends. Mhm.
And on the other end of the spectrum, what about those students who are really excelling and kind of need extra challenges? How do you address those students?
Yeah, so we have a set curriculum. We have a couple of extra tasks that we set aside for those
Hmm.
high achieving students. And then once they complete our entire curriculum, then that's the wonderful thing about product. If they complete the entire curriculum, then we go ahead and move them early into product. And that's actually something that excites them very much. They're like, okay, yes, definitely put me into product. We're ready. And there, because not all well, with our curriculum, all tasks are the same, right? So same difficulty level. We can't really do much about that. But when we move into product, we can pick and choose, okay, well, if this student is advanced, maybe he would benefit from a task that's a little harder. And that motivates them to kind of push through and get into product early and then get those more difficult tasks assigned to them.
You mentioned that community is such a unique part of Sabio. So overall, are in-person Sabio students working with or alongside the online cohorts? Is there opportunities for that? Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah, all the time. So they are in person, but they're constantly collaborating with online students as well.
Mm.
So let's say when it's lecture time, I go ahead and pull all of my students into a call. So that way the in-person students and the online students can all be together during lecture. And if I go ahead and break people into groups, I'm breaking and mixing in-person students with online students so that
Mm.
everyone gets to know each other. And that's incredibly important because again, once we move them into phase 3, they need to learn, they need to know and be comfortable with one another to collaborate with one another and also hold each other accountable. That's incredibly important for us. They need, once they graduate, it's important that they know how to follow standards, how to keep those standards. And if they don't keep them, they know that both, like whoever collaborated with one another is going to be held accountable, because that's how it's done in the real world, and we emphasize that.
That also sounds like such a great skill to have, to be able to work with in-person teams and then online teams at like simultaneously,
Exactly.
like in the real world. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's been a pretty volatile tech job market this year. What do you feel like sets the Sabio Bootcamp grads apart in this current tech talent pool?
Okay. The first thing that I will say is they have, so when I compare our students to what I would compare them to is, let's say, students that recently graduated from college, right, to get a bachelor's. Well, what sets them apart is that they already have that real world experience.
Mm,
They already know how to do stand-ups. They already know that they need to complete sprints. They know that those sprints have deadlines, and they know that if they don't complete those sprints, there are consequences, right? So they already have that experience down. They know how to collaborate with one another. They know the importance of, again, if I mess up Jess's code, then that doesn't look good on me.
mhm,
Same thing if Jess messes up my code. So I think that's incredibly important, that experience that they already have under their belt. So that's very important, that they already have that real world experience down. And then I will say once again,
mhm.
community, because again, like it's really hard to go out there and apply to 100,000 jobs and not know a single person that works there, right? It's just, yes, you can get the job, and yes, it is possible, but it can be easier when you have a community. We have a channel called Jobs, where different alumni post on there different job opportunities that they have at their companies, and then reach out again to an alumni and say, hey Jess, I heard that your company is hiring for so and so and so. I am currently working under this project, and this is what I developed, and I think our the requirements align with what it is that I can produce. And we have a chat, right? And
Mhm.
as an alumni, I'm going to be a lot more comfortable going and saying, hey, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and vouch for Jess, because I know what Jess went through, and I know what it is that uh, she learned during her time at Sabio. So I have more confidence in going and putting in a word for you than going and putting in a word for someone that I don't know at all.
Yeah, and you mentioned that that was how you landed your job out of
That
Sabio.
is.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's
yeah. Actually, when I went to the interview, there were like three other alumni there sitting as well, and I was like, "Oh, what's up, guys?" So, yeah, I was the lucky one. Yeah.
Do you have any tips for recent bootcamp grads on how to excel in their first tech role?
Find a good lead. When you interview, yes, you are the one being interviewed, but you should also be interviewing the people that you're going to be working with. It is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly important that you find someone who is going to be willing to mentor you, right? Your
Mm,
team lead, whoever is going to be your superior, should be also a good teacher. They should, like I said, in this field, you're never going to go know everything. And it is important that you work with other people that you're comfortable going to and saying, hey, I did my research. I I think I have a solution, but I'm not sure. Or maybe I don't have a solution, but I did my research. Can you please help? And having someone that says, hey, no problem. Yes, I was there once. Let me teach you what I know, is huge. So that's what I would say. Interview the people that you are going to work with, because they are the ones that are going to shape your experience in this field. They're either going to make it miserable for you, or they're going to uplift you.
And are you currently recommending your boot camp students that they apply to like in-person or hybrid or remote roles? Yeah, just
I
apply
don't really,
wherever.
yeah,
Yeah.
just apply. That first time experience, I think hybrid would be maybe ideal, right? You get the
Mm.
best of both worlds, but whichever one I think works, you'll get experience either way.
Mm. Well, that's a perfect place to wrap up this Q&A. Thank you so much for giving us a glimpse of the very awesome Sabio campus in downtown LA, Selva. And thank you so much to all of you for watching. We're going to be posting a transcript of this video interview on the Course Report blog with contact information for Sabio, just in case you're interested or inspired to apply for any of their upcoming in-person or online cohorts. And in the meantime, you can follow Course Report on Facebook and Twitter. And if you're a bootcamp alum, don't forget to post a review of your coding bootcamp experience on Course Report. Your review is a huge help to anyone who's thinking of getting into tech today.